Hello and welcome everyone to today's ABA webinar on getting to know the ABA Commission on Immigration and the resources it provides to practitioners. My name is Wafa Hubala and I will be acting as the moderator. First, I would like to acknowledge and thank the ABA's Commission on Immigration and our co-sponsors, which include the Arab American Lawyers Association of Southern California, National Arab American Bar Association, Los Angeles County Bar Association, Public Counsel, Mexican American Bar Association, and the Multicultural Bar Alliance for supporting today's event. Next, I would like to thank our esteemed panelists for joining us today to help guide us through the ABA Commission on Immigration, its programs, and the amazing resources that has made available for practitioners. Our first panelist, Wendy Wayne, is an expert in immigration enforcement with the criminal justice system and in the interplay of immigration and criminal law. She is the founder and director of the Immigration Impact Unit at the Committee for Public Counsel Services, the Massachusetts Public Defender Agency, where she provides comprehensive training and advice to court-appointed attorneys throughout Massachusetts and engages in systematic impact litigation. Wendy is the former chair of the American Bar Association Commission on Immigration and currently sits on its advisory committee. She previously served on the Department of Homeland Security Advisory Council Task Force on Secure Communities, the Massachusetts Access to Justice Commission, and the Board of Directors of the Massachusetts Association of Criminal Defense Lawyers. Our second panelist, Adela Mason, has served as the director of the American Bar Association's Immigration Justice Project, IJP, for the last 5 years. Before joining IJP, Adela practiced immigration law in both the public interest and private sector with Kraus Law Corporation, Platt Immigration Law, Amazola Legal Group APC, and Casa Cornelia Law Center, where she served as the Pro Bono Program Director and Asylum Program Director. Adela was the Una Chapman Cox Foreign Service Scholarship recipient while she clerked with the U.S. State Department at the U.S. Embassy in Montevideo, Uruguay. Adela also clerked with the Organization of American States, Office of International Law, the World Organization for Human Rights, USA, and the San Diego County Public Defender's Office. Prior to law school, Adela served as the case manager at Santa Barbara Domestic Violence Solutions. Adela was named a 2020 Top Latino 20 Leader by NBC News, is a One Justice Executive Fellow, and a Prize Fellow alumni. Adela received her Bachelor of Arts in Global Studies and Spanish Literature from the University of California, Santa Barbara, and her JD from California Western School of Law. Adela is a San Diego native and grew up spending summers at her family's home in Morelia, Michoacan, Mexico. Our final panelist, Stephanie Bays, is pro bono counsel for the ABA Commission on Immigration. She got her undergraduate degree from the University of Southern California and her JD from Fordham University School of Law. Stephanie has extensive pro bono experience, both as a volunteer attorney and as a pro bono program manager. She began her career as a litigation associate in the New York office of Fried, Frank, Harris, Shriver, and Jacobson, where she provided pro bono representation to multiple asylum seekers. Stephanie spent 1 year as the Fried Frank Fellow to Her Justice, a nonprofit in New York that provides family law and immigration assistance to low-income women. Stephanie was next a judicial clerk to the Southern District of New York. She then moved to San Diego and managed the family law and domestic violence pro bono program at the San Diego Volunteer Lawyer Program before joining the Commission on Immigration pro bono team. Following today's speakers will be a short question and answer section, so please submit your question to Bridget via the Q&A feature, and hopefully we can answer as many of them as possible. Before we begin our program for today, I wanted to give you all a bit of background as to why I got involved in the ABA Commission on Immigration and why I believe today's program is so important. When I came to the United States to pursue my graduate studies in international law and begin my career, I was a practicing international lawyer, and the opportunity arose for me to provide pro bono immigration services for a local nonprofit community-based organization in Los Angeles. When I first started my pro bono work, I was not aware of the nuances of immigration, and much of what I learned came from personal experience and the little resources that were available to me at that time. After providing these services for almost 3 years, I realized that I had found my calling as an immigration attorney here in Los Angeles and was able to establish my own immigration practice, which I had continued for the last 25 years. My pro bono experience helped shape my career as an attorney. And my hope is to now educate and inform the public as to the resources that the ABA offers so that we can strengthen the practice of our profession and better serve the interests of our clients. So with that, I will turn it over to our first panelist, Wendy.
Thank you, Wrapup, for that introduction. And thank you for joining us today. I'm Wendy Wayne. I have been on the Commission on Immigration for 6 years. I was chair for 3 years and ended my term last month, and I now sit on the Commission's advisory committee. As Wrapup said in her introduction of me, I'm an expert in the interplay of immigration and criminal law and immigration enforcement. I became involved with the Commission because I wanted to learn more about and work on national immigration policy. Immigration law, as many of you probably know, is a very broad area of law, and the Commission has members who are experts in different subspecialties, such as asylum law or family immigration or detention issues or business immigration. And the breadth and depth of knowledge on the Commission is truly impressive, and being involved in it has definitely made me a better and more knowledgeable immigration lawyer. I want to give you an introduction about sort of an overview of the Commission. So immigration reform is a key priority for the American Bar Association. The Commission directs the ABA's efforts, advocating for full due process rights for immigrants and asylum seekers, decreased reliance on immigration detention, and access to counsel. And they do this through a combination of direct service, policy development and advocacy, training, technical assistance, and pro bono programs. And you're going to hear more about some of those areas in a few minutes. So the Commission itself is made up of 13 volunteer ABA members who are appointed every year by the ABA president and 10 advisory committee members. Recent projects of the Volunteer Commission include a memo that we issued in 2021 at the beginning of the Biden administration, detailing the Commission's policy or policy priorities of the American Bar Association for immigration reform, including immigration court reform, decreased detention, and government funding for attorneys to represent indigent individuals in removal proceedings. We also did an very detailed report in 2019 on reforming the immigration adjudication system. And in the last couple of years, updated the ABA standards for the treatment of what are known as unaccompanied alien children, or unaccompanied minors who come to the US. The Commission has about 10 staff based in DC who oversee the work of both the Volunteer Commission, who work on policy issues, and oversee the Commission's on-the-ground projects. So I want to briefly give you an overview of the Commission's on-the-ground projects. One of them is called the South Texas Pro Bono Asylum Representation Project, known as ProBAR, based in Harlingen, Texas, which is in the Rio Grande Valley. ProBAR began in 1989 and provides legal services to immigrants and asylum seekers in South Texas. They provide legal orientation and direct representation to detained adults and to unaccompanied minors. Their work includes volunteer and pro bono opportunities, which Stephanie will discuss in more detail a little bit later. And ProBAR currently has about 190 staff members. So it's a large legal services organization in South Texas. The Immigration Justice Project, IJP, is located in San Diego and is directed by Adela Mason, who you're going to hear from with a lot more detail in a few minutes. It was created in 2008, provides legal orientation and direct representation to detainees at the Otay Mesa Detention Center, including as appointed counsel for detainees deemed to be not competent to represent themselves due to mental illness. Then there is CELA, the Children's Immigrant Law Academy based in Houston, Texas. This project of the ABA Commission on Immigration was created in 2015 after unprecedented numbers of unaccompanied children began entering the US at the southwest border. CELA provides technical assistance, training, and resources to attorneys who are representing unaccompanied children in Texas and throughout the country. It has quickly become the premier national resource for expertise on representing children in removal proceedings, and CELA currently has about 8 staff members. Based in DC is the ABA Detention and LOP Information Line. The detention hotline was created by the Commission in 2002, and it is included in the free calling list in every immigration detention center. So people who are detained in immigration custody can call the free hotline and receive information about potential forms of relief from removal, not individual advice, but sort of general information about relief from removal, communication with consulates, assistance with filing complaints regarding detention conditions. And in 2019, the detention hotline began to also provide LOP training, which stands for Legal Orientation Program, which is a federally funded program administered by the Vera Institute that provides more detailed information about the immigration court system, about forms of relief, bond hearings, etc. I want to talk for a couple minutes about how policy is made in the ABA and how commission members are sometimes involved in the formation of that policy. So the American Bar Association advocates with federal agencies, with Congress, and with the White House in furtherance and in compliance with policies that have been passed by the ABA's House of Delegates, which is its rulemaking body. Because the ABA is such a large, broad-based organization that represents the full spectrum of the legal profession, as opposed to one specific issue or political perspective, ABA advocacy on a particular issue can be quite impactful. Policy is made by passage from the House of Delegates. So policy proposals, known as resolutions, are introduced to the House of Delegates by a section, a committee, or commission, such as a Commission on Immigration. So I want to give you one example of one that I worked on. After having been on the commission for a year or so, I decided that I wanted to work on strengthening ABA policy on government-funded counsel in immigration proceedings. As some of you may know, there is no right to appointed counsel if you're indigent and in immigration proceedings. Many indigent individuals represent themselves, including the majority of people who are detained throughout their proceedings and detained in immigration detention, which is in local or federal jails throughout the country. Research has consistently shown that detainees with counsel are much more likely to be released on bond during their proceedings if represented by counsel, and are up to 10 times more likely to win relief to which they are legally entitled if they are represented by an attorney. Having been a public defender, I work for the Massachusetts State Public Defender's Office and have done that my entire legal career. For me, an issue that has always been very important, it's unfathomable to me that people, especially those who are in immigration detention, who may not speak English, have to represent themselves in this very complex area of law when the stakes are so high. And so this is an issue that has been important to me for a long time. And so after being on the commission for about a year, I decided that I wanted to try to get better, stronger policy, because the ABA policy did not yet call for government-funded counsel for people in removal proceedings. It had some policy, but it sort of had narrow categories only for children or for people with mental illness, but not all indigent individuals, with a focus, a priority on those who are detained. So first I worked to convince other commission members that this was an important issue and that we should propose a resolution at the next House of Delegates meeting. And House of Delegates meetings happen twice a year, that mid-year meeting and an annual meeting. So usually in February and in August. Once a majority of the commission agreed that this was an issue that we supported, I then worked with other people to draft a resolution. And the resolution language is the actual policy that gets passed by the House of Delegates. And then that is official ABA policy. And accompanying it needs to be a report which details the reasons why this is an important issue and why this resolution should be passed. We then advocated with other ABA sections to either co-sponsor or support the resolution, and spent a while at the annual meeting trying to convince groups and talking to groups at the ABA about why this was an important issue for the ABA to support. And when the resolution was passed at the House of Delegates meeting, it passed unanimously. This was in 2017. And I'm happy to say that now government-funded counsel is a priority of the American Bar Association within its advocacy on immigration issues. So that's a way that, you know, an individual commission member can take an issue that's important to them and build support within the commission. And once official policy has been passed, the ABA now can be a strong voice for this issue. I just want to briefly talk about how to join the commission, and then I'm going to turn it back to Wafa. So now the nomination process begins usually in January for the next bar year, and applications are normally due in February. The bar year begins in August after the ABA annual meeting. If people are interested, they should check the ABA website, I would say probably in early January, which will have information on the application process. And it's recommended that individuals submit a self-nomination, and other ABA members can also submit nominations on your behalf. Your nomination should detail your particular expertise within immigration law, why you want to join the commission, and how you believe you can contribute. And decisions are then made by the incoming ABA president, and those decisions are usually made sometime in May. So Wafa, I'm going to turn it back to you now.
Thank you, Wendy, and this was very informative. And now I am going to invite Adela to take on the second presentation.
Hi, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. And it's great to have a sponsorship from all the California entities. I'm Adela Mason. I'm the director of the Immigration Justice Project. We are based in San Diego, and I'm going to delve into some of our different program areas. And if you're interested in getting involved in any of our work, Stephanie is going to follow up with the kind of more tangible ways that you can get involved. But for now, I'm going to give an overview of our programs. And so our work is partly based in detention center and partly based in the non-detained field. And so on the detention side, a lot of our programming is in the Otay Mesa Detention Center. This is a detention center that's very close to US-Mexico border. You can actually see the border, in fact, from this detention center. It has a population of about 1,500, about 1,000 folks of the total population are in ICE custody. One of the unique aspects of this detention center, which I think is unknown, is that it's quite representative of migration across the world. I think there's an assumption sometimes that most of the immigrants in Southern California are coming from Mexico or Central America. And in fact, San Isidro Port of Entry and the Otay Mesa Port of Entry are really the door to the Middle East, South Asia, Africa. And in fact, over the last year, migrants from Cameroon and even recently Senegal have represented some of the highest populations in the detention center. We do serve, as Wendy shared, as appointed counsel through the National Qualified Representative Program for immigrants that are detained and that do not have counsel and that have been determined to be mentally incompetent, either by an immigration judge or by the Board of Immigration Appeals. In that circumstance, we are appointed counsel. We also have a legal orientation program within the facility. This is for people that are in ICE detention that have been unsuccessful in securing an attorney, either because they can't afford one or they've been unsuccessful in trying to secure pro bono representation through the nonprofits in the Southern California region. I will say that it generally hovers around 70 to 80% of the population at Otay Mesa that is unrepresented. So this accounts for a really sizable portion of the population. In this program, we provide folks with orientation about, even what the courtroom looks like, where they're going to sit, the relief and remedies available. We also do individual orientations to walk through more specific circumstances. And part of that program is identifying folks for pro bono representation. I will say that it is important to us to prioritize folks from this program for pro bono representation because of the fact that they're part of the program by virtue of having exhausted the option or possibilities of securing counsel, whether that be paid or pro bono. I also think it's worth highlighting that a lot of the folks that are in this program, they don't have a support network in the community, again, because as I shared, there's a number of immigrants or asylum seekers coming from the Middle East, from South Asia, from Africa. And so the language challenges, it can be really detrimental to finding an attorney. They don't really have the mechanism to call around to get the word out that they're looking for counsel. And so the ability of this program to be able to utilize interpretation really allows us to make that connection with folks, understand their situation and their legal case, and then be able to provide them with pro bono representation, including interpretation. On the non-detained side, we do representation in removal proceedings and also in affirmative, more transactional work like affirmative asylum applications, U visas, what have you, DACA. We also have the orientation program where we are starting it and kicking it off at the San Diego Immigration Court for individuals that are in removal proceedings but are not detained. And we'll be doing that shortly here. We're launching this program in the next month or so, including for family groups that are now on a dedicated docket, a dedicated expedited docket for family. And I will put a plug out there, given the audience, that we are about to post 4 to 5 positions for attorneys and legal assistants. So if you know anybody that's looking for work and is interested in this space and coming down to San Diego and working with what is a very needy population that's in need and that is very rewarding, please keep your eyes out for that. I'm going to keep it a little bit short here just because a lot of what we're hoping to convey today is ways to get involved with this work. And so I'll end with our final program that we've recently launched, which is our Federal Litigation and Appeals Program. Because a lot of the folks that we encounter in the detention center or even outside of custody haven't had the benefit of an attorney because of the low representation rates at the facility. They're now really navigating a lot of due process challenges and real problems that occurred with their case by virtue of not having an attorney. And so we have an appeals program. It's not limited to folks that were pro se in their prior proceedings, but that's really where we have prioritized our focus. And we've actually, our program manager, the attorney that manages this program, has gone before the Ninth Circuit 3 times in the last few months. So Stephanie will speak to this as well, but if you're not local and you would still like to get involved, there's a number of ways to get involved, but yet another way is our new appeals program. And so with that, I will pass it over to Stephanie.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I'm going to share my screen quickly and show a few slides for you today. All right, I hope that that's showing for everyone, and one of my fellow panelists can let me know if it's not. My name is Stephanie Baez, and I am pro bono counsel for the Commission on Immigration. In my role, I work with the Commission, which is headquartered in Washington, D.C., and the pro bono projects that take place out of the commission, as well as the offsite projects. IJP, like Adela just mentioned, and we'll talk a lot about IJP pro bono opportunities today. And I also work with ProBar in Harlingen, Texas, and CELA in Houston, Texas, which are the different programs that Wendy mentioned that the Commission on Immigration oversees. So we're going to talk today about pro bono opportunities in all of those projects. If you have any questions, you can go ahead and put them in the chat, and they'll be addressed at the end today. A little bit about myself. I actually started my career as an attorney in private practice, and one of the very first pro bono cases that I did was with ProBar in Harlingen, Texas. It's the COI project in Harlingen. And I had the opportunity to travel to Harlingen when I was a summer associate in private practice and represent a client in an asylum proceeding there. And it was truly a life-changing, formative experience for me. And I like to share that because it's something that really changed the trajectory of my career, opened my eyes to a new area of law. And I think that that's one of the great benefits to getting involved in pro bono is you just never know where it might take you and what it might teach you and where it might lead your career. You might not become pro bono counsel somewhere, but pro bono might become a really important part of your private practice. And so it's just, it's a great thing to get started with. So why volunteer? Like I just touched on, it can be beneficial for the trajectory of your career. And also you're gonna make a difference. As Wendy mentioned in her presentation, there is no right to counsel for our immigrant population. And so pro bono attorneys are especially important to making a difference in the lives of immigrants in need. It can also be beneficial to you to learn a new area of law and to be practicing your skills. If you already know immigration law and just want to practice being in court or in learning different skills that are part of your pro bono practice. We do have remote opportunities available. I'm going to go into those in more depth, but that's one of the things that is a silver lining to the pandemic is that many remote opportunities have been developed and many courts are allowing remote representation, or the detention facilities are allowing for Skype communication. So we're able to offer pro bono services to people who live throughout the country. Today, I think most of our audience is in Southern California, but regardless of where you are, you could help with our projects in San Diego, DC, or in Texas, because we have so many remote opportunities available now. And finally, one message that I really hope to hit home today is that no immigration experience is needed to become a volunteer. If you do have immigration experience, that's fantastic, and that's something that would really be helpful to us. We can definitely put that to use. But sometimes people are interested in volunteering, they have the desire to volunteer, they want to reach out to help, and they hold back because they think they're not experienced enough. It's our job to mentor and train our volunteer attorneys and make sure that you have the skills that you need and that you're empowered to do the representation that we're asking of you. So we're going to be with you to make sure that you are able and capable of doing the tasks that are required from whatever representation you're undertaking. So really all you need is a desire to help and that willingness to work with the client, to want to step in and to assist on a pro bono case. And we can help train you and get you the skills that you need to be able to successfully complete your representation. So with that said, how can you help? We have a number of different pro bono projects across the commission that range from what we refer to as light touch pro bono, meaning that you're going to be providing counsel and advice or form preparation through a clinic, but not taking on a client for direct representation, all the way up to direct representation and opportunities that are available for taking on a full case. So I'm going to jump into each of these in more detail. The first opportunity I want to share with you is a temporary protected status clinic. It's a TPS clinic that we have developed for specifically for Haitian migrants. As many of you probably know, this is a topic that's been in the news. So if you're not an immigration practitioner, you're probably still following along the crisis in Haiti and what's happening at our border right now with the Haitian migrants who are here in the United States. There is a type of temporary status that is available to Haitian migrants who arrived in the US before certain dates. It's called temporary protected status, and it can provide, it's developed for people to have short-term benefits for non-citizens who can't return to their home country due to extraordinary circumstances. And right now, we are helping provide TPS for Haitian migrants who qualify. We've joined with a coalition of organizations that are a coalition of nonprofits that are providing this service through a Zoom clinic. So we're able to offer these services through a virtual Zoom clinic, meaning volunteers, no matter where you live, you can get involved in this and you can help from the comfort of your own home. The clinic takes place once a month. It's one weekend a month, so it's actually 3 days. There's a Thursday afternoon, 2 shifts on a Friday, and 2 shifts on a Saturday that you can sign up to become involved in. You don't need to sign up for every shift. You can just pick one in there that works for your schedule. And you can help a client apply for their TPS status through Zoom. So you'd be helping them fill out their forms and answer questions, give advice and counsel about their cases. This is something where we would be providing you with training videos and materials so that you would understand what is TPS. We go into it in depth and specifically how it relates to Haitians and issues that that population sees. We would get you trained on that. And also during the clinic, it's on Zoom, you would be in a Zoom breakout room, and legal captains who are experienced immigration attorneys would be popping in and out of the room to answer any questions you might have, or to review your paperwork before it's finalized. So you'll have a lot of support if you're new to TPS, and you can learn how to do these applications. And it's a fantastic way to help a population that's really in need. The first clinic is coming up actually this weekend on Thursday the 23rd through Saturday the 25th. And I'm going to tell you at the end how you can get involved if you're interested in how you can sign up. But if this weekend doesn't work for you, we're going to be doing this every single month. So you can sign up now to get more information and then register as your schedule allows. The next opportunity I want to talk to you about is also an opportunity to provide advice and counsel, again, from the comfort of your own home. And this is a program called the ABA Federal Free Legal Answers. This is an online legal platform that helps clients who have questions about immigration cases. They can type their question into the platform, it's uploaded, and volunteer attorneys are also logged into the platform, can review the questions and see which ones they want to answer to be able to assist clients with their questions. So you can answer questions for immigrants in need anywhere, anytime. It's on your own schedule. And this program really helps to combat notario fraud, which, as many of you know, can be a problem in the immigration community, where people who are not qualified to be answering immigration questions might take someone's money and be abusing the system in that way. And we're able to provide free answers for people in need. And so it's really a way to give back that's minimal involvement, where you're helping clients, again, on your schedule from your home. And it really makes a big difference for the clients who are in need of answers to their questions and don't have the money to pay for an immigration attorney elsewhere. Another way that you can get involved without taking on a full case for representation is through credible fear interview preparation. Credible fear interviews, CFIs, can be a first step to the asylum process for immigrants who are detained. And the Immigration Justice Project in IJP in San Diego has just developed a new program where pro bono attorneys can help prepare clients for their CFI interview. For those of you on here who aren't familiar with asylum, basically to prove a claim for asylum, to win asylum, someone needs to be able to show that they fear being persecuted, or they have been persecuted by the government or an entity that the government can't control because of their race, religion, nationality, membership in a particular social group, or political opinion. So for a client who's trying to seek asylum, it's not as simple for them just to say, I suffered some hardship, this bad thing happened to me. They need to be able to pass their credible fear interview. They need to be able to tie it to the who and the why to show that they were persecuted on account of one of these protected grounds. And that can take talking to a lawyer to get that advice and counsel to help them be able to tell their story in a way that's going to pass this credible fear interview. So people who have valid asylum claims aren't being turned away and sent home just because they don't know how to properly communicate that claim at an early stage in their asylum process. So this is an invaluable service that our attorneys can provide to help prepare clients for these interviews. And again, Skype is possible. So this is for clients who are detained in the Otay Mesa Detention Center. Skype interviews are possible, so you can connect with your client virtually, and it's a great remote opportunity to get involved as well. Next, I'm going to talk about some direct representation cases. The first opportunities for direct representation are more limited scope direct representation, where we're seeking volunteer attorneys to come in and help clients who are detained. As Adela mentioned, there are near 1,000 immigrants who are detained by ICE in the Otay Mesa detention facility. And most of those, the immigrants who are detained might be eligible for release on bond or parole. But they need an attorney who's able to advocate for them and able to go into court or write a letter to ICE explaining why they're eligible for this relief so that they're able to come out of detention while their immigration proceedings are ongoing. This is something that is hugely important, especially in the time of COVID when it's really dangerous health conditions to be in a detention center. So we're able to provide assistance to clients. Pro bono attorneys are essential in this and helping do short-term representation. It can be for about a 6-week period of time where you come in, you help someone with a short hearing before the immigration court to seek bond or help them write a letter to ICE to seek parole. And this is something where you can make a huge difference in someone's life with a short-term commitment on your part. And again, this is available through IJP and also through ProBar, which is our project in the border in Harlingen, Texas. And we provide training. So if you don't know what bond or parole is and how you can help in this area, we'll make sure that you're trained so that you do understand the ins and outs and how you can best represent your client. And that leads me to direct representation, where we're always seeking attorneys who can come in and represent clients on their full merits case. As Adela mentioned, there are a number of opportunities at IJP to represent clients both who are detained and non-detained in their removal defense proceedings. We also help with clients who have affirmative asylum cases before USCIS. So that is a less adversarial proceeding, and it's a way for you to get involved to help someone prepare for an interview with USCIS. Specifically, we're seeing now a lot of clients who were formerly part of the migrant protection protocols, which is the Remain in Mexico program. That's something that our program ProBar is really seeing a lot of, where they've helped the clients while they were part of MPP, and now they've been paroled into other parts of the country and they're living throughout the United States and need help with the next step of their asylum case. So we're seeking volunteers really throughout the country who could help with these cases. And in San Diego, we're seeing families that have been placed on the family group dedicated docket, as Adela mentioned, which is an expedited docket here in San Diego for certain families. And those cases move a little bit quicker than a normal asylum case would, and the families really need help from a pro bono attorney who can come in and advise them throughout their case. We also have opportunities to represent children in immigration matters, and I'm going to touch on that in just a moment. The main thing that I want to emphasize here for all of these different opportunities that we have available is that we provide mentorship and training for whatever you might get involved in. So I know today I'm just giving a high-level overview of a number of different areas. If you're interested in any of these, please rest assured we would give you a longer, more detailed, in-depth training just on the specific area that you want to get involved in, and we can help get you up to speed if you don't practice immigration law so that you fully understand the representation and can best assist your client. One area where we are seeking experienced immigration attorneys is to mentor other volunteers. Because mentorship is such an important part of our pro bono program, we're also seeking people who have immigration experience who would be willing to give back and help mentor our inexperienced volunteers. This is a great way to get involved and really see an exponential return on your time investment, because for a few hours spent with a volunteer attorney, that attorney is then going to spend way more time with their client, doing the client interview, gathering evidence, doing prep, and then just come back to you for guidance. And so this is really a wonderful way to give back to the community and help train the next generation or a new group of potential immigration lawyers or people who are interested in representing clients. And finally, we have a number of ways for non-attorney volunteers to become involved. So I think that there might be a good number of law students on this training, and we have so many ways that you can get involved and help out as well. First off, I should mention for anyone who speaks a language, we're always in need of interpreters or translators. So if you speak, read or write a language outside of English, that is another fantastic way for you to help with clients. You can help your client communicate with the attorney during a meeting, help translate documents that are needed for court, or potentially even go to and virtually appear in a courtroom proceeding, or excuse me, not a courtroom, a USCIS appearance to help when interpreters are needed for those appearances. And for our law students, you could get involved with the TPS clinic for Haitians that I mentioned a few moments ago. Law students can be involved there. And again, your work will be overseen and reviewed by legal captains who are going to be helping with that clinic. We also have the detention and LOP information line that Wendy mentioned at the beginning of this presentation that is in Washington, DC, but that's a great way for interns to get involved and to help man that line and provide information to callers from detention facilities. And then we also have internships that are at IJP or in ProBar in Harlingen, Texas, where interns can be really invaluable with helping with client interviews, doing research, drafting documents. So if you are interested in an internship or in getting involved as a law student, you can reach out to me and I'll direct you the right way to go. I'm going to have contact information at the end of this presentation. One last thing I want to mention is the ABA Children's Law Academy, which is our program in CELA, which Wendy mentioned. Excuse me, it's our program called CELA, which is in Houston, Texas, which Wendy mentioned at the beginning of this presentation. CELA is an expert legal resource center, and it's an invaluable resource for everyone to know about, whether you are an immigration practitioner or just interested in taking on a pro bono case. CELA has amazing references and resources on their website. They've got trainings on a wide variety of topics that are free that you can watch, and a pro bono guide that's a really helpful, robust manual on how to represent clients. These resources many of them are specifically tailored to representing children, but also many of them are widely applicable to whatever kind of immigration case you might be working on. So definitely check out CELA for some free immigration resources. And CELA also has a platform that's called Pro Bono Matters for Children Facing Deportation, which is an online platform where organizations from across the country post cards that show where they need pro bono help. So you can log on, you can look at CELA's website and see cases from across the country that are specific to representing children in immigration matters. And that's another great way to get involved, and those opportunities are available on CELA's website. So we hope that you join us in some of these volunteer efforts. If you are interested, first, one great way to get involved is just to become an ABA member. I have on this slide here the dues that are the annual dues for ABA members. There are some discounted dues for new lawyers. So if you're just starting out, it's $75 a year. There's also discounted dues for nonprofit and solo practitioners. So that if that is your category, again, discounted dues here if you join the ABA. And for law students, it's actually free to get a membership, or it's $25 a year for a premium membership. And the premium membership includes a few extra things, bar prep, ethics prep for the MPRE, and some other things that are listed on this slide. So please check out the ABA and consider membership as a way to get involved and learn more about the Commission on Immigration. And if you're interested in pro bono opportunities, there is a volunteer interest survey that Bridget is going to share in the chat. That is a survey you can click on and you indicate the areas of interest, and we will connect you with the right organization for you and the right pro bono project for you. You can also reach out to me at any time. My email address is on here as well. So you can reach out to me if you have any questions or want to learn more about any opportunities before making any kind of commitments, and I'd be happy to talk to you more about any areas that you're interested in. My final slide here are just a few quotes from some recent pro bono clients and volunteers. So the first one, we have a client who said, I don't know if I would have gotten to have my life back without my lawyer. And that's from an IJP client who was detained in the Otay Mesa Detention Center. And his volunteer attorney, who had no immigration experience before representing him, came in and was able to help him with his case. She spent 6 weeks on the representation, and during that time was able to get him released from a detention center during the pandemic, during COVID, so that he's able to be home with his family while he's waiting for his immigration court case to move forward. And for him, this was life-changing representation that she was able to provide in 6 weeks. Another quote here, it's our collective goal to help the immigrant community. One great way to do that is to make sure that advocates are well trained. And that's a quote from a volunteer who was an experienced immigration attorney who volunteered to mentor an inexperienced volunteer attorney. And her perspective was, this is a wonderful way to help train the advocate community and make sure that we really have strong attorneys who are going in to help clients. And that's in the interest of everyone who's in the immigrant advocate community. We want to make sure that we've trained the next generation of lawyers. And so this is a great way to give back to do that. And then the final quote here is, these are the experiences that make life worth living. And that's from a pro bono attorney who took on an IJP case, an asylum case, and had a very emotional victory, winning asylum for his client, and described how everyone in the courtroom was crying and emotional at this victory because it meant so much to his client. The interpreter was crying, witnesses were crying, the attorney was crying, and this was a defining moment of his life, being able to be part of that, and what a fulfilling experience it was to be able to help his client in that way. So thank you. That's a high-level overview of our pro bono opportunities. And please, I encourage everyone to get involved. Reach out to me if you have any questions, and we hope to work with you soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie and Adela, for your presentations. They were quite important and informative. I have a few questions that I will address first to Wendy. If you can elaborate a bit on how one can find existing ABA policy on immigration matters.
So the best way to do that, the ABA has a new website from a couple years ago that has actually made it harder to find ABA policy, or it has for me anyway. I think the easiest way to find it is if you Google American Bar Association Green Book. There is most recently, I don't know if it's published semi-annually or annually, but there is a Green Book that is prepared, I think, after the annual House of Delegates meeting, that has a compilation of, I don't know if it's all ABA policy or most significant ABA policy. So for example, it's like a 400-page book. It's available online, and there's a section called Immigration Law, and it's got 20 pages of immigration policies from the ABA, and then it might have links to it, I'm not sure, but that's really the best way, I think, to find specific policy from the ABA.
Thank you, Wendy.
Oh, and I think Bridget just put the link in the chat.
Thank you.
Thanks,
For
Wendy.
Stephanie and Adela, can you speak further to the types of training and practice resources available for those that get involved in these pro bono programs?
I'll start it out and then I'll pass it over to you, Stephanie. One benefit, I would say, of getting involved with IJP or pro bar with detained cases, which I fully recognize is quite an undertaking to commit to representing somebody who's in a detention center, is that we also, in addition to our in-house training that we provide and our materials, we have training and mentorship available through the Immigration Justice Campaign. And I will say that a number of our attorneys that got involved last year, especially around custody matters, which was of particular importance given that the Otay Mesa Detention Center had the highest rate of COVID infections for several months and was the location of the first COVID-related death in ICE custody. To really mobilize a national network of volunteer attorneys was life-changing. And our partners with the Immigration Justice Campaign played a big role in that. And so as a volunteer taking on a case of somebody who's in detention, you have access to their entire library of resources to a mentor. I will say that a number of the attorneys that got involved found that the kind of like office hours model that they have was super beneficial because it connected them to other attorneys that were taking on pro bono cases, and they kind of developed friendships with new colleagues, folks that were also taking these cases. So that's a huge benefit of taking on a detained case. I will say though that if you don't want to take on a detained case, if your preference is to get involved in one of the other menu of options that Stephanie went over, we do have, again, very comprehensive training. Our legal director, it's like a legal mastermind, is often tapped by AILA to do national trainings. We have a lot of resource materials, not only practice advisories, but we'll also really make a lot of templates available to you. We want to make sure that you feel very confident going forward, that you feel that you have all the resources, but also the materials that would make one feel more confident about sitting down and writing a pre-hearing statement or whatnot. I mean, we're of the belief that if you have a positive experience doing this work, you'll come back for more, and you'll also refer friends and colleagues to do this work. So we place much value on making sure that you feel that you were supported and that you had a positive experience. In no way do we kind of place the case and say like, good luck, our name's on the case. This is a little bit more technical, but there's a retainer agreement with IJP or with ProBar or whatnot. So, we're very invested in making sure that you feel that you have the tools to move forward and represent this case to the best of your abilities. I don't know if there's anything you want to add, Stephanie.
Before that, can you add up about like what type of time commitment is usually expected from pro bono volunteers?
It really varies. I mean, if you have a case that's in removal proceedings on the non-detained side, it could be a little bit longer. We could be looking at 1 year to 2 years. I will say that these expedited dockets for the family groups, though, I think on the immigration world, we feel like they're quite fast. I think for those that are not as familiar with immigration court calendaring, they don't feel that fast. The expectation is that those cases are done in 1 year. So as much as the expedited nature of them is problematic, on the other hand, I think the beneficial aspect of this for pro bono attorneys is that they can kind of forecast how long that will take. For cases that are on the detained side, it can be anywhere from about 2 to 6 months. With the removal side of things, it kind of ebbs and flows a bit more. So, going into your filing, you might have quite a bit more work that month, but then it might kind of subside. And, we are very conscious about working with attorneys to make sure that we're finding the case that has appropriate calendaring. If you're doing something on the removal side, whether or not that's detained or not detained, or conversely, it might be the case that something that's more transactional in nature with USCIS better suits your calendar. That's, the time commitment there is not quite as long. Waiting for an asylum interview might be quite extensive, like as far as that calendar. Also, like I mentioned, we have a lot of volunteer opportunities with Ninth Circuit appeals. And so that calendaring is a little bit easier to anticipate. But I will say that it's a little bit of a long-winded way of saying that we will really tailor it to your needs and your availability. But between removal on the detained and non-detained, transactional, appellate work, I think we can always find something that meets the time commitments and availability of attorneys. And that can range from like, something in the ballpark of 30 hours for parole request to a case that might take, up to 200-300 hours and last 1 year. So the range is quite extensive and will really meet the needs of the attorney.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I think Adela said all of that beautifully. I don't have much to add except just to say that if you aren't sure what kind of opportunity would be best for your schedule, you can always reach out to me and say what it is that you're looking for or what your time availability is, and we can provide some options to match you with what would best suit your needs. So you don't need to come to us and say, I know I want this type of case. You can say, I'm looking for something that's about this kind of commitment, and we can help match you with the best opportunity. We have a lot of clients in need and a lot of different ways to help so that we can find something that fits your schedule.
Thank you. A final question for the panel. What are some long-term goals you hope that the ABA Commission on Immigration and its programs will be able to accomplish in the coming years?
I'm happy to start quickly. I would say we are still reeling from some of the cruel policies from the last 4 years and facing new challenges every day in the southern border, migration issues, climate migration. And I'm hopeful that the ABA can continue to have a strong voice on a national level in fair treatment and due process rights for immigrants and asylum seekers, and better access to counsel and representation, and stronger due process and increased reliance on detention, and that we can be successful in making immigration policy more humane than it has been in recent past.
Thank you, Wendy.
I would follow with what to Wendy's points. I mean, better access to counsel is critical. I think we get better due process when we have access to counsel. The fact that the majority of people that are in detention don't have an attorney is horrifying, and the consequences of that are life-changing. And I do think that, you know, there's a real problem with detention. The report just came out from the Inspector General about the fact that the Otay Mesa Detention Center, where so much of our work is based, is in violation of a number of standards. This report was just issued within the last 2 weeks. The fact that people that are fleeing persecution in their home countries, that have witnessed like the murder of their family members, that have experienced rape, that they come to the US asking for protection, and our answer is to put them in a maximum security prison where they suffer a lot of discriminatory behavior, particularly folks that don't speak English or Spanish. I really kind of want to point that out, that folks that are coming from the Middle East or Africa are very much discriminated against in this facility. It's just so problematic. And so our hope is that, you know, we have access to counsel, but also that we treat asylum seekers and immigrants with more dignity than this.
Stephanie?
And I would agree with all that's been said, and that really to harness the power of our national network to be able to assist these immigrants in need. And so, you know, while there is no right to counsel, to be able to really use our pro bono network and efforts to provide as much representation and assistance as possible. And that's something that, you know, the ABA has the national network in power. So thank you all for your time sitting in today and learning more. So hopefully you can help be part of that movement.
Thank you, Stephanie. Just a final reminder for California attorneys, please email Nashwa Eisner with the Arab American Lawyers Association of Southern California. Her email was provided earlier regarding your MCLE certificates evaluation forms. And with this, we are at the end of our program. I thank you all for your participation, the panelists, our co-sponsors. I hope this was as beneficial as you expected. And please become members with the ABA and benefit from all of our pro bono services and information and resources. Thank you to all.